Welcome to the Fog to Fit podcast. I am your host, Jesse Taylor-Vigneux, and let's see how this goes. This is my first time doing a podcast solo. For those that know me in my personal life, I tried the podcast life with my cousin, and we did a podcast called Radio Free Millennials. I think we got to about maybe 10 episodes, and then life got in the way. We couldn't figure out scheduling times, and she had to go back to school, which was in a different town, and we just don't have the money to put into equipment so that, we can do it remotely together. So now I'm going to try this on my own. This podcast mainly is going to consist of me figuring out my mental health, and along the way also get into the best shape of my life physically and mentally. Judging by the title of this episode being Unwelcomed, Unhinged, and Undiagnosed, I'm going to get into a little bit of who I am and why I chose that name and why I chose the name for the podcast. So, Unwelcomed, I think I'm going to keep that answer pretty short, where I'm joining the podcast world very late in the game, and I'm not sure if there will be room for another fitness podcast. But here's the thing. This is not just a fitness podcast. Once in a while, will I give advice or knowledge into health and fitness? Yes, of course. But here's the disclaimer. I am not in any way, shape, or form a doctor, a trainer, nutritionist, etc. I am a cook, and I work as a cook full time. But I'm also a student of life, and I'm a student of learning how to improve myself, improve my body. And if I help people along the way better themselves, that is one of the greatest gifts I can ever receive. Especially because that's something I wanted to do my whole life, which is changing people's lives. Originally, changing people's lives meant writing a song that could, in some way, shape, or form, resonate with you, make you cry, make you laugh, make you question, whatever the case might be, because I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to be kind of the next Tim McGraw or the next Garth Brooks. And I kind of wanted to venture into music that way. And honestly, I still look up to people like Tim McGraw and be like, I wish I could sing like you. Maybe someday, if I get around to having music lessons or vocal lessons, maybe I could record one record or whatever the case might be. But unwelcomed in the podcast world, mainly because I'm going to do this my way. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to give you the information that I learn on a day-to-day basis, because I do listen to other podcasts. I am like you. I do enjoy listening to a podcast. My podcast of choice is either Don't Be Sour by Max Tuning or Mind Pump with the hosts Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, Justin Andrews, and producer Doug. Come on, you got to give him a little bit of love too. And I think Andrew might be a co-producer. I don't know. But I listen to basically every single episode. So I learn from others like you do. So I am not in any way, shape, or form able to give you advice. or tell you, hey, do this, hey, do that, because I'm not qualified. I am a cook. I am a fiance. I am a friend. I am a family member. I am a someday stepfather, and that's what I am. So, in a way, think of this as you listening to one of your friends give you advice. So, that's kind of where I'm going to leave the whole unwelcome thing, and then let's go into unhinged. Unhinged basically is me saying, well, this is unscripted. This is very, very much unscripted. I made the decision on my walk home from work to record the first episode. And I hope it comes out good in some way. So I guess we'll find out after I upload the episode and see where things go from there. If anybody wants to give me advice or critiques in any way, questions, comments, concerns, either hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I have a page on Facebook, Jesse Taylor-Vigneux. It's a black and white picture. Just hit me up there, send me a DM, and let's get the conversation going. And let's go and hop over to Undiagnosed. And this is where I'm going to repeat my disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I am not legally giving advice or telling you how to figure your own life out when it comes to your mental health. This is just me going about things my own way. So, undiagnosed ADHD, depression, anxiety, and who knows, maybe something else on top of that. So, I am going to be 30 this year, the big 3-0. And a couple years ago, during the pandemic, I decided I wanted to help someone out with their ADHD so that they can progress in life, because I knew and believed that they could and be better. But in doing all the research that I did to help them, I ended up realizing, holy crap, you have ADHD. All of these things make sense. All of the setbacks you had in school, the inability to sit still, the ability to just like tap your fingers on your desk, like you're jittery, like you're on caffeine, even though at that point you haven't even had your first sip of coffee yet, or even an energy drink at that point. I didn't have my first energy drink until I was in my mid-20s. Well, I mean, maybe early 20s. Let's go early 20s. And like I felt like I was on speed because I couldn't sit still. I couldn't focus. Like in English class, which was arguably my favorite and most successful class grades wise, other than ninth grade geography. But I loved writing. I loved reading. I still love reading, and I still love writing. It's just I don't have as much time as I would like to. But I had the inability to stay 100% focused on a book or an essay or whatever the situation was, unless I was 110% obsessed with it or the idea of it. For example, in school, we had to read the book Night by Elie Wiesel. It is a first-hand account on Ellie's life during World War II as a Jewish man, or in this case, Jewish boy, and pretty much living through the Holocaust. I'm not going to spoil anything because it's a really good book, and if you haven't read it, I do suggest going and picking it up at your local library, on Audible, on Apple Books or iBooks, whatever it's called now, or Amazon or what have you. I do recommend it. But originally, it was like, okay, this is about the Holocaust. I know bits and pieces here and there from watching TV or whatever the situation was. And then we read the book, and my teacher had us writing an essay. Well, that essay was supposed to be one page front and back, and that's it. Well, my obsessed self decided, hey, it's going to be 5 pages front and back, so 10 pages total if you really want to think about it. And my teacher basically said, I am not going to read this whole thing. I believe you. Here's your mark. And then I don't know, just unless I was obsessed with an idea or there was a crunch time, like a deadline that was quickly approaching, I really couldn't apply myself the way I wish I did. So that's one of the many reasons why I realized that I've had ADHD my whole life. But unfortunately, I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, and if you were not bouncing off the walls like a typical ADHD boy of the time, you didn't really get looked at the same. Because my little brother has ADHD, but he was closer to the stereotypical bouncing off the walls ADHD. Whereas for me, I am more on the inattentive and mentally hyperactive side of the spectrum. Because now that we've had done so much research in the field of ADHD, we have realized that ADHD is a spectrum because it is also more than one thing under one umbrella, where for me, I would be traditionally labeled as ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, and that also falls under inattentive and mental hyperactivity. But now it's under the same umbrella as ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Even though there's a lot of people petitioning that gets renamed, I will insert that joke in a different episode because I don't remember the whole thing right now, but it's something to do with Dave. If you look up ADHD Dave on TikTok and look for Connor DeWolf, one of the TikTok creators, he's got a whole skit on it. It's actually quite entertaining. But yeah, like I grew up back then where I was just labeled as IEP'd, which I had a learning comprehension issue, which, yeah, is true. It takes me 2 or 3 times, if not more, to read the same thing before I can actually understand it sometimes. So other times, yeah, I can read it and get it right off the bat, but most of the time it's not that simple. So just fast forward into my late 20s, it's just everything makes sense knowing that I have ADHD. And I'm undiagnosed. I self-diagnosed myself, which I don't recommend anybody doing. But I diagnosed myself because all the pieces fit. at this point, I do need to get tested and I do need to be diagnosed officially, because ever since the pandemic, or whatever we're supposed to call it now, because if you say that P word, you'll be demonetized or you'll have a flag on your media. But ever since that happened, I've unfortunately seen a lot of my coping mechanisms that I developed over 20 some odd years, I didn't have anymore because I was stuck at home. I didn't really socialize with many people, or just a lot of my coping mechanisms that I had are just gone, right? So I realized that I can't do it on my own anymore. So I either need an ADHD coach or medication, because I'm trying the whole like doing it spiritually, like meditation and yoga. But unfortunately, that's not enough. And I do work out, which is going to be talked about in a different episode. But yeah, I need to be diagnosed and I need help because I can't do it all on my own anymore. And I've tried to get back all those coping mechanisms, but unfortunately, I have to wave the white flag. But anyway, this is also a fitness podcast, as I mentioned earlier. So I am on a journey to lose 80 pounds or so I can look good for my wedding. And I'm going to be documenting here and there where I'm at, my progress, and my thoughts and feelings on things. It will also supplement my YouTube videos that I'm also putting out, which I do need to put out another one, but that's another story. Do I know what my upload schedule is going to look like over the next little while for either YouTube or the podcast? No, not necessarily. But for podcasts, I'm going to try doing Friday at 4, and I'm going to try keeping my Saturdays at 2 for YouTube. And that's with YouTube shorts here and there. I'm thinking about doing a TikTok. Like I have a TikTok, but I mean like a new video for TikTok. Because like, you know, that YouTube or that TikTok where it's like two best friends in a room, they might kiss. Well, I thought of one today, kind of bouncing off of something my fiance said, because both of us have anxiety, and we both mentioned to each other that like our anxiety was high, right? So like my fiance said, two anxious beings, and I'm like, my brain just clicked, and it's like two anxious beings in a pod. They might freak out, and then like as the dialogue goes, the other characters are like, what? And anyway, it's kind of the same principle as that TikTok. We're coming up to about 20 minutes here, so I'm just going to end it here and plug my social media and hope that you guys come back for another episode. So this is Jesse Taylor-Vigneux for the Fog to Fit podcast. If you want to reach me, I am Jesse Taylor-Vigneux on all social media platforms. So Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And I think that's it. I tried the Mastodon thing, but that went nowhere. Same with the Hive, I think it was called. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next episode. This is Fog to Fit, and I will see you next time.